Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all having a great day and that you're all doing well. The main news for today and the end of yesterday is that Bitcoin and the wider cryptocurrency market went down pretty hard. However, there seem to be a number of things that could be the reason for the price actually going down. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. The most important thing for this video to remember, especially for those of you who are not looking at the screen, the article says, this is from Summertime. The article says Libra is actually good for Bitcoin. This is very important to remember. The main thing to take away from this is that it has been widely believed and is still widely believed. Two things or three things, doesn't matter the amount of things. If Libra launches, at some point, they're probably going to integrate Bitcoin, which would then allow the name Bitcoin, or Bitcoin would have access to, or people would have access to Bitcoin around the world. There'll be 2.4 billion people that currently are on Facebook's different products that Libra would be in. If Libra doesn't succeed, it only shows the resilience of Bitcoin. This is very important to remember. While many people may not like the idea of this, Libra and Bitcoin are slightly tethered at the hip, at least for the time being. People who don't know much about cryptocurrencies, don't care much about cryptocurrencies, they lump it all into the exact same category. They're digital money, digital currencies, digital something that's on the internet that can't be touched, and therefore they are very closely linked and associated. So when one does bad or negatively, therefore, logically, to other people, the other one also has to not do well as well. Just keep that in mind as we go through the entire sequence of events. So I tried to put it in order as much as possible. And this is what we got over the last 40 hours, except for right here. We had news a couple of days ago. It says Facebook is reportedly open to the idea of using national currency peg stablecoins for its forthcoming Libra project. According to Reuters, on the 20th of October, David Marcus, the head of the Libra project for Facebook and CEO of Facebook's wallet service Calibra, said that Libra could use various fiat-based stablecoins instead of initially proposed token. Speaking at a banking seminar on Sunday, Marcus reportedly stated that the main goal of the project was to create a more efficient payment system, that it was not opposed to looking at alternative approaches. The entire point being, from the very beginning, from the get-go, it was stated that Libra would be the coin that would be used by Facebook for their entire coin token project. 4 days ago, we had news from the people from Facebook that, yeah, we don't have to use Libra. We can simply use a stable coin instead. And everyone was kind of really confused because one of the major issue points that government leaders around the world had, especially those within the US, was that Libra would be tied to other currencies as opposed to just the US dollar. So the idea was, we don't have to use Libra. We can also use a dollar stablecoin, a euro stablecoin, a pound stablecoin. You kind of get the idea. After that happened, United States Congress is considering a draft bill that claimed all managed stablecoins must be seen as investment contracts and therefore as securities. The U.S. representative for Texas's 29th Congressional District, Sylvia Garcia, introduced a draft bill to the House Financial Services Committee on the 18th of October. The draft bill, called the Stablecoins Are Securities Act of 2019, very literal, seeks to regulate stablecoins under the Securities Act of 1933. This entails amending statutory definitions of the term security to include the term managed stablecoins. The proposed bill seems to be directed at Facebook's Libra stablecoin, which is planned to launch in 2020. Lawmakers across the globe weigh in on the discussion in regards to stablecoins such as Libra and its perceived threat to the global financial system. So, sequence of events so far is that we had news on Sunday that Libra was apparently thinking of just simply issuing stablecoins. About a day or two later, on the 22nd, we had information that U.S. Congress members, or whatever, doesn't really matter exactly who it was, drafted a bill that said that all stablecoins would fall under the jurisdiction of the SEC and would therefore be seen as securities. The problem, I'm pretty sure a lot of you know with this, is everything thus far that has been deemed a security within the United States has been attacked and mauled by the SEC, if not at some point had the CFTC also talked down against it as well. in a situation where Facebook doesn't use Libra and instead uses, or even if they do use Libra, as it is still a stable coin of some sort, instead also maybe switches over to a US dollar, euro, and or yen and or pound based stablecoin system, it would then be seen within the United States as a security, which then would fall under the jurisdiction of the SEC, which would also mean that they would also need a license to be able to use the security, which would also mean that you or anyone else out there who is looking to use Libra and or their stablecoin, Facebook's, as a method of payment would almost be completely barred from doing so, because its securities are pretty much bonds, stocks, trading things that you do normally on a stock exchange, and therefore you would also pretty much have to give up your information to be able to trade with Libra in any capacity, when the entire point from the beginning was that Libra would be this free open system. Not exactly sure how true or how much weight that actually holds. The entire idea from the beginning was that the people from Facebook said that Libra would be open source and at some point would be so decentralized that it would not be controlled by any one government. So you're kind of seeing, even after the first two tabs, how things are already going downhill. The U.S. Department, so after that happened, the U.S. Department of Treasury has committed to monitoring the Facebook-led cryptocurrency project known as Libra. The news was announced by Emanuel Cleaver II, congressman from Missouri's 5th District, on Tuesday. Cleaver said he'd written to the Financial Stability Oversight Council, the FSOC, and the Office of Financial Research, or the OFR, in August, calling on the regulation to proactively examine Libra and Calibra for possible systemic risk. Cleaver received a letter from back from the Treasury yesterday confirming that there are many unanswered questions on Libra. The department said that as Congress continues to examine these issues, it would closely monitor this market to address any regulatory gaps that it defines. The Treasury added, it is unclear whether U.S. and foreign regulators will have the ability to monitor the Libra market and require corrective action if necessary. This concern must be addressed if Libra is to be launched. Once again, referring back to the very beginning, Libra and Bitcoin are very closely linked together. To people who don't care about the cryptocurrency market, don't know about it, and are just trying to regulate it, it's all the exact same to them. When people, especially those who are potentially trying to get into the cryptocurrency market, or even those who may be institutional investors, very rich people who are already within the cryptocurrency market, hear that something that is closely linked to what they are holding could potentially be banned, fall under the jurisdiction of the SEC. Regardless of any news that we've had before, you have to understand that the human mind doesn't work with logic. We've known for quite some time that Ether and Bitcoin are not securities and that they are commodities, but this is not how the human mind works. When people hear that something they are holding could potentially be at risk of falling in price, they sell. And what happens when they sell is that everyone else also ends up selling as well. So, yesterday, sequence of events, Mark Zuckerberg actually had to go before, I believe it was the Congress, and pretty much discuss with them what Libra was and what he was trying to do with it. Zuckerberg faced hostile questioning in the U.S. Congress from politicians of both parties as he sought to reassure them that the planned digital currency Libra would be a force for good. The more than 6 hours of testimony before the House Financial Services Committee on Wednesday came as the social network faces calls from lawmakers to be broken up. While the event was intended to focus on Libra, House members used Zuckerberg's rare appearance to grill him on topics including political bias, fact-checking, and the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. Libra, the digital currency published or developed by Facebook, was set to roll out in 2020 but has faced pushback from lawmakers who have questioned how it would be regulated and expressed fears it could be used for illicit activity or become vulnerable to privacy abuses. Several financial partners, including MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, and eBay, have abandoned the project. Up here, for those of you not looking at the screen once again, apparently a lawmaker said to Zuckerberg, "You're trying to help drug dealers." These people don't understand what cryptocurrencies are, and the issue is, I really wish that Facebook hadn't been greedy from the get-go and just decided to not list or try to create a coin cryptocurrency whatever they're trying to create, because we all get lumped together. For those of you who have been here in the cryptocurrency space at least since 2013, 14, and or 15, you remember this was one of the most annoying things that we had to face or deal with as cryptocurrency advocates, is that we were constantly put into a corner as people who were trying to promote the usage or buying or selling of or trading of anything that was deemed illegal around the world, and it usually fell into drugs. We also had a couple of people, well, prominent lawmakers, politicians, money makers, bankers, who had all agreed that Bitcoin was only used and would only be used to buy drugs or illicit things, ladies of the night, whatever you kind of want to lump it all together with. So during the testimony, he was pretty much screamed at and was told exactly what Libra was going to be used for. On top of this, Mark Zuckerberg testified before the U.S. House of Representatives Financial Services Committee yesterday regarding the Libra stablecoin project. During the much anticipated hearing before Congress on the 23rd, lawmakers and the CEO discussed the growing competition with China on the economic and geopolitical stage. In his prepared statement to the committee, Zuckerberg stated that the project would ensure that the U.S. stays a financial leader globally. He said, China is moving quickly to launch a similar idea in the coming months. We can't sit here and assume that because America is today the leader, that it will always get to be the leader if we don't innovate. Libra will be backed mostly by dollars, and I believe it will extend America's financial leadership as well as our democratic values and oversight around the world. If America doesn't innovate, our financial leadership is not guaranteed, end quote. In his questions to Zuckerberg, Representative Patrick McHenry asked about China and the rapid rise of technology companies. Zuckerberg said today, 6 out of 10 of the top tech companies are coming out of China and certainly don't share our values. One of the main issues that a lot of politicians had around the world, and more so within the States, was that if Libra did launch, especially with their basket of currencies, many other currencies are typically or should be pegged to something, i.e. the US dollar used to be pegged to gold, and therefore this is where it derived its value from. Libra, when it was announced, we were told that it would derive its value from multiple other currencies around the world, and one of the main fears from politicians within the States is that it would also be pegged to the Chinese renminbi. A couple of weeks ago, the people from Libra said, no, that's not the actual case, and that it would actually be pegged to the US dollar, the euro, the Japanese yen, I believe the pound, and a bunch of other assets that would allow it to maintain, regain, hold, or whatever its value. This is also another big talking point as well, as we are getting relatively close to the time where China has announced that they're going to be launching their own digital currency, and the fear has been that if they launch it before other countries, which I'm pretty sure they're going to do at this point, at this moment, it appears that I think it's Sweden, the Bahamas, China, Venezuela kind of already has theirs, and I think one other country who have announced the actual launching soon of their own digital currency, but China being already an economic powerhouse, if they do so before the US, it is believed that they may then take a huge amount of control from the actual wider market, as they can simply create new apps, create so-and-so and so, and get people around the world to use their coin. And therefore, people will become comfortable using their coin or their currency as opposed to using the US dollar, anything backed or pegged to the US dollar, etc., etc. For those of you who didn't get the hint, following testimony before the U.S.'s House of Representatives Financial Services Committee, lawmakers are still concerned about the possible launch of the Libra stablecoin on the 23rd of October. Legislators heard statements from Zuckerberg and posed questions covering a variety of topics, from Libra to Facebook's data policies in reaction to possible foreign influences on the platform. Following the hearing, the committee's chair, Maxine Waters, told Cointelegraph, I don't support Libra at all at this point. She said, and it's not as if I support it if it does this or if it does that. At this point, I am not a supporter of Libra. I don't know what it is. I don't know that that has been adequately explained. It has been multiple times. I just assume a lot of politicians don't want to get it. You have to also assume it's not so much of... I had wrongly assumed last year that a lot of this was due to like an age gap or simply generational kind of thing. It's more so from my opinion and from the way that I'm looking at it and the way that I kind of see things, it's more of a power struggle thing. You don't want to learn, and you make sure that you don't learn about things that you think shouldn't concern you. Government leaders around the world don't care about cryptocurrencies as much as we might think. And therefore Libra we know exactly what Libra is meant to be, especially if you've been within the cryptocurrency space, you kind of get it. So this is the other, once again, still sequence of events that ended up happening where after the fact, lawmakers came forward and they were like, yeah, we don't like it. We don't really care what it is. It's probably not going to go through. Keeping in mind, once again, the tie-in between Bitcoin and Libra, and also the fact that there's now a proposed bill that would still say that if Libra does launch its stablecoin, would still fall under the jurisdiction of the SEC within the United States, which would pretty much mean that the coin is completely dead. It would be almost impossible for normal people to gain access to the coin, if not find possible solutions to be able to use it, because anytime that Libra was used or linked to something else in some sort of way, they would have to then ask the SEC for approval for what they're trying to do. And we know how difficult it is to try and get any of that to go through, because we've seen before in the past that anytime there's someone else, if the SEC doesn't like you, you're not going through. This is why this hand is kind of right here. Continuing on, about an hour or two after this, apparently the EU allowed or semi-allowed or said that they would be okay with an extension to the actual Brexit happening. For those of you who've been keeping track, it's been a good 3 years at this point, and it is widely believed as well that the price of a lot of people are trying to find exactly what Bitcoin is pegged to. Is it the belief in the system? Is Bitcoin pegged to negative prices? Is Bitcoin pegged to world events that are catastrophic and therefore Bitcoin does well? Is Bitcoin tied to good news? No one is, or rather people are still trying to figure out the exact value of Bitcoin and where it derives its value from. It has been thought that as the year goes on, and especially as we thought mistakenly that by the end of this month on Halloween that Brexit was going to happen, that Bitcoin would do well, because every single time that we get negative news about Brexit, the value of the pound goes down and Bitcoin usually, sometimes, sees a little uptick up. So the news that the UK could potentially have until the 31st of January to have a deal go through Parliament, whatever needs to be done, etc., could have also then caused Bitcoin's price to go down, as we have seen before. Whenever we get, I want to say, good or hopeful news, Bitcoin's kind of a negative pony. That's not a saying, but Bitcoin usually does very well on negative traditional economic news. And when we get news that things might not be as bad, Bitcoin tends to also have days in the red. So this is once again sequence of events as to why Bitcoin could have potentially, or rather why Bitcoin did fall. It's more of like a why it could have fallen so much. On top of this as well, once again, all within the last 40 hours, it appears that there is some type of potentially a China-US trade deal. Traditional markets reacted positively on this. I think Chinese markets did well, and a couple of other countries took this as a very good step forward, if you will. However, it appears that any type of, it depends on where you look. A lot of people are optimistic that this trade deal could stick and could lead to other trade deals. However, a lot of analysts around the world are stating that they don't think that it's going to do anything. Apparently, around the same exact time when we got news that there was going to be some type of a deal, same exact time as the Brexit news, and a couple of hours swirling around the entire Libra thing, it apparently came out that, I can only give you what I see on the internet, it said China would buy up to $50 billion per year of U.S. agricultural goods in a new trade agreement, but it hasn't come anywhere close over the past decade. So I didn't even have, if you type in US-China trade deal within the last 24 hours, it's a lot of articles floating around. People think that any type of trade, any type of handshake, any type of paperwork could potentially crumble within the next couple of days. None of this is sure. However, people on both sides are not very optimistic that anything could stick. A lot of people, and I was watching, and I cringed at the thought of this. A lot of economists believe that we could be at the beginning of a year-long trade deal battle against multiple countries, and that what we're seeing now could be only the beginning of a strong downturn in the global economic markets, what have you. Sequence of events, continuing on. So, this article tries to explain a bit as to exactly what could have taken place and why things seemingly are the way that they are. It says, since dropping to 9,500 on the 24th of September, Bitcoin has dropped below 7,800 on 8 separate occasions, and today's or yesterday's price dump is the 9th. So from a technical point of view, Bitcoin was already biased towards bears on the short-term time frame, and this bias has also steadily increased on the longer time frames as well. Bitcoin's price slump liquidated $200 million worth of leveraged longs at BitMEX, according to Twitter analyst Taiwan Dan. The Bitcoin liquidation at BitMEX could have begun with 3,600 Bitcoin sold at Bitstamp. Taiwan Dan said that every bid from 7,800 to 6,200 wiped out in less than 15 minutes. So once a big sell-off began to happen, everyone else started to sell out of pure fear that someone else was selling, and this ends up causing an avalanche. Once again, all the negative news, because, and I've had many discussions with many people about this as well, I try to gauge different approaches from different people within the cryptocurrency market, or even people from the traditional market, as to exactly what could be taking place. There doesn't seem to be any logical reason as to why Bitcoin is going lower. It's a couple of things that people are kind of trying to piece together. It appears that we were in, I think it's called a head and shoulders pattern. I believe this is what it's called. But even then, it appears that during certain points when it appears that Bitcoin is at a breaking point, this is when more selling ends up kind of taking place. On top of this as well, we all know that Zuckerberg went to Washington. Similar to traditional markets, the crypto sector is heavily influenced by media, and it's possible that recent news might have exacerbated the shock to Bitcoin's price. Zuckerberg testifying before U.S. lawmakers pretty much, especially with them not liking anything that he had to say. Once again, it's when we talk about illogical markets, crypto is usually one of them. A lot of people who are in traditional markets, especially a lot of, one can only assume that people who are very rich and or heavy-handed investors, they're used to hearing, the logic goes, if you hear anything negative about a stock that you're holding, and you have a large amount of the stock, you can sell off in anticipation of other people selling off, so that you kind of beat the herd and you kind of make your money back before anything else or anyone else does. I think a lot of people don't really understand what Bitcoin is, as far as like an actual payment tool to get around any type of tyrannical, governmental, whatever that might be happening, as like an actual, I can pay you, you can pay me without any borders. People are looking at it more of as an asset, something to make money off of, and therefore, when negative things happen with anything in the cryptocurrency space, we get the brunt. Is that a thing? We get the very end of the stick, as it were. We saw this before as well, when people didn't understand. This was a very big problem in 2017, where Bitcoin had its first major fork, and we got Bcash. People didn't understand that Bitcoin was still Bitcoin and that Bcash was Bcash. And this also caused the market to go down, because people had wrongly assumed that Bitcoin had simply printed another 21 million coins. Same exact thing when we got Bitcoin Cash Satoshi Vision. It's just this if people deem that something is negative in the market, the entire market ends up suffering. The third part and least spoken about part that we had is that apparently Google announced that they had some type of quantum computing breakthrough. This actually spooked a lot of people. A lot of articles came out discussing what the ramifications for Google's quantum computer could actually be for the cryptocurrency space and more so for Bitcoin. The most important part right here, it says, and I do quote, they said, Google, our machine performed the target computation in 200 seconds. And from measurements in our experiment, we determined that it would take the world's fastest supercomputer 10,000 years to produce a similar output, Google researchers said in a blog post about the work. What would have taken a computer 10,000 years to do, their quantum computer did in 200 seconds. So they say, so they claim. My friends, who I spoke with about the recent drop in Bitcoin's price, linked this to me and told me about this before anything else, before any of the other things that we had about Libra, before any of the other things that we had about stable coins and securities. It was the fear that you can, and I would also maybe try and search around for it as well. There were a lot of articles talking about, I saw two sides. One was heavier than the other, as far as like an 80-20. The 80 was pretty much like, Bitcoin is doomed, Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin's going away. This supercomputer will be able to tear Bitcoin apart. Bitcoin, supercomputer, quantum. The other 20% were saying that the advent of quantum supercomputers would actually help Bitcoin in that people would be able to use these systems to be able to secure the proof of work system a lot more, etc., yada, yada, yada. Sequence of events. There's also something that took place also yesterday. The timing for these things never ceases to amaze me. No matter what is happening within the cryptocurrency space, timing is always everything. Timing is very impeccable. The issue that I always have is about every 2.5 weeks, no matter the rise of the incredibly good news, any type of negative news that we might have always clumps itself on one day. And this is exactly what we're seeing right here. What we have now is that analysts are saying that we have apparently been, according to them, in a descending triangle for a couple of weeks, months, right here. And this is apparently what took place yesterday. And that according to them, it appears that Bitcoin could be on its way to somewhere around 5,000. The numbers that I was actually seeing is that Bitcoin is going to try to bounce off of 7,000. That Bitcoin is not talking about Bitcoin as if it's a living, breathing thing. It's more like people within the market are going to try and test once again a $7,000 Bitcoin to see if that support holds. And if that support does hold, the next steps that we have are going to try and hit, I believe it was then 7,800, 8,200, 8,600, 88. And then from there, if this holds, we will try the 9,000s and then the trying to push up again from the 10,000s. However, because of everything that's been happening, it appears that we could, over the next couple of hours and or days, I'll say days, be looking at a further drop in Bitcoin's price as market movers and shakers try to rattle the last couple of people out of the market. This is also what we spoke about yesterday as well. I saw a lot of people very angry in the comment section. It is what it is. Really. I've thrown my hands up in the air. You can't see it, but it is. We had news yesterday, for those of you who missed it, that the former head of the CFTC said that CFTC, the Treasury, the SEC, and government leaders pretty much decided to launch Bitcoin futures in 2017 to pop the Bitcoin bubble. This could have also had a sliver of an effect on the market. A lot of people are not ever really happy with news like this. Nobody wants to hear that something that they've put their money and potentially and or time into can be easily moved around by world leaders. People were asking in the comment section, and I think people get confused about this very easily. People were asking, if Bitcoin is decentralized, how can world leaders control it. I think a lot of people mistakenly assume that decentralization also ties directly into the price. You can be as decentralized as you want to. Someone can still scare you with news articles. Someone can remember 2018 when all the world leaders kept on talking about that they were going to ban Bitcoin. Fear also has a huge effect on the market. It's not so much that Bitcoin is decentralized and therefore can't be controlled. You have to also remember and try to take this to heart as much as possible. Remember, for those of you who've been here for a very long time, hello to all of you. Handshake, handshake, handshake. And even those at the beginning of 2018, I said it's a real shame because the people who are going to start accumulating Bitcoin, who already have tons of Bitcoin, are the people who don't need it. The people who not even got into it early. The people who understand where the market is going and will eventually go, regardless of any red days that we might see. There's only one way that the market is going to eventually go. At least that's my opinion, not financial advice. Please, as always, do your own research. I saw a couple of people. I always know, it's really funny. In the morning when I check the comments, I know that it's going to be, or rather, I know that prices have dropped down depending on what the comments look like. It's always very, very obvious. People were talking about, why was I letting people know about Bitcoin? Bitcoin was a scam. Why did I still mention XRP? XRP is a government controlled something. I forgot what the sentences were, and I was like, oh gosh, I know all the prices have dropped. The people who control the market and are going to continue to control the market because they know how to shake people out because they've been in traditional markets since the 70s are the people who control the markets right now. I've believed for a very long time, and this is my kind of mantra for crypto, regardless of what prices are, if they go down, if things look terrible, I still buy. If prices go up, I still buy. It doesn't really matter because I see exactly where the market is going. Whenever we have news, especially if we add it all up, that huge portions of all the Bitcoin in the world, all the Ether in the world, all the XRP in the world, all the Litecoin in the world is being held by some of the richest people in the entire world. These people do what they do because they're trying to control the market, to push prices down, to accumulate more cryptocurrencies themselves. There is not going to be a time in probably any future or timeline that we have where very rich people are going to want other people to have assets that they could also own. I was discussing this with a friend last night. Hello to you if you are listening. He's been into crypto for a couple of months now. He went head first. He's really, really into it. And we were discussing why prices were going down, why prices would be going down. And I told him, I said, think of this. Imagine you're rich. Imagine you're wealthy. Imagine your net worth is around 700 million. People over the last couple of years have come to you and told you, have you heard about Bitcoin? Have you heard about Bitcoin? Have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? No, tell me about it. Well, our charts show that mathematically by 2024, it will have this value. By 2028, it'll have this value. We figure that if you acquire this much Bitcoin and simply move it through this or do that or sell at this point or do so and so based on our charts, you'll be able to make this much more money and make this much more so and so. Imagine you have to, there's a documentary on YouTube. I think it's called The 1%. Like, I think that's it. I want to say that's it. It's a documentary. It's maybe, it has to be over 10 years old by now. It's the head of the Johnson Johnson family discussing with other rich people, his friends, his family, how they feel about money. And they all kind of come to the same conclusion that I have everything, but I still want more. Crypto's still being accumulated. Don't assume that because prices have gone down that all the rich people have thrown their arms in the air and said, well, this is over. They're trying to make sure that they have all of it, as much as they possibly can have, which is they're trying to get all of it, essentially, and that no other people can have. This is what happens in real estate. This is what happens in every other place. Why do you think whenever a new building gets built and it's luxury housing, the thing is sold out within a day? They accumulate as much as possible to keep their wealth within them, their family, and their friends. Everyone else is not a concern to them because they're everyone else and they're not them. So this is why, regardless of manipulation, first of all, every market is manipulated. Don't assume that it's just crypto. I think a lot of people who are relatively new to any type of financial sector, maybe even all of them who may be new to crypto, think that it's just crypto that's manipulated. It's every single market on this planet. Bonds, stocks, mutual funds, hedge funds, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, real estate, the shipping market, everything is manipulated in its own way. It's not just crypto. This is just, we are so early in the cryptocurrency market that our manipulation looks like this. We have days where prices slam down, and it's also causing other people, not financial advice. If you feel that crypto is too much for you, if crypto is too much for your heart, for your brain, for your life, for your soul, that's not a joke. Feel free to step away. It's not an easy market. For those of you who do plan on staying and plan on making money over the long term, it's a rough market because everything is very brand new. There's no regulation. There's no nothing. There's no rules for insider trading. There's nothing of the sort. And this is why we see stuff like this happening. Keep this in the back of your head forever. If you had the chance as a person to accumulate $1 million worth of Bitcoin at $7,000, $3,000, $5,000, and potentially one day each Bitcoin went up to $1 million, you would do so without any regard or caring for any other person on the planet except for you and your family, understanding that you are going to become worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in the future, because that's all that humans care about is our own safety and our own well-being. There are tons of people in the world right now, very rich people, who are buying up as much as they possibly can. And don't assume that the people who are also manipulating or may be manipulating the market, speculative, whatever, allegedly, that they're not also trying to become richer to secure their future. It's just logical. So like I said, I saw a lot of people were very angry at this particular news thing. It doesn't matter. These people are rich and they want to get richer. It's kind of exactly, it just is what it is. Anyway, moving on from that topic. Yeah, that was kind of also it as well. For those of you who don't know, this is a discussion that we've had many times before, but I think people seemingly always forget this. Many governments hold Bitcoin. Many governments hold cryptocurrencies. They had, I don't want to use the word raids. They had raids in 2016, 2017, where anything that was deemed illegal, they pretty much went in, smashed a whole bunch of stuff, and took the company's or person's Bitcoin. I think it is foolish to assume that governments are not accumulating more cryptocurrencies. I mean, think logically. If the people from the New York Stock Exchange told us, the common folk, that they loved prices going down in 2018 because they were buying as much as possible, one can only assume that they know someone else in the government who's also like, maybe we should start accumulating as well. All makes sense. So that is the sequence of events of things that ended up happening over the last 40, 42, 48 hours, depending on how you want to look at it, that could have potentially caused the Bitcoin's price to go down. A number of analysts were saying that we were simply at the end of a trading range, of course. However, there was far too much negative news at the exact same time that I believe also tied directly into the decline of Bitcoin's price. As always, wait, there we go. Nope, wait, hold on. There we go. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Todd Mullis, Adam Graysick, Morham Maroney, Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Niels, Woody and Daisy, Triple M and J, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Milweezy, Mechanic, Strange Radio Central, Crypto Artist, Cold D3D, Cryptopolis, Nicholas, One Earth, One Piece, One Love, Damien, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich III, Vlad the Impaler, Krypton Beer Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Gardner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Miller Hitch Chest Every Day, and Kyle Skips Leg Day, Yes to Crypto, and Bodie McBoatface. Thank you all very, very much for your support. At the moment, you're not looking at the screen. I would still not look. Everything's completely in red except for stablecoins and Chainlink, which, sure, why not? Go for it. Have your day. Everything is down. Last day, yesterday, Bitcoin was at 7,600. It's at 7,427 right now. I think a couple of hours ago it was at 7,390 something. I'm sure people within the market are actively trading this. This is not the volatility that we hoped for, but the volatility that we've been given. So I'm sure people are trying to trade on any type of upside that might be happening. Everything is in the red, except for stable coins. Some coins are hit more than others, but this is also likely to be expected. I want to say I hope you enjoyed, as that's my normal thing. The last couple of days have been rough. Don't let it get you down. It's just how the market is, and probably will continue to be. We will probably experience things like this over the next couple of years. I don't assume until the year 2028, maybe 2030, that we'll see any type of relative stability in the cryptocurrency market. But this is also what makes it exciting. It's exciting that one day Bitcoin can be 14,000 and the next day it falls down to 7,000, and then, a couple weeks later it's back over 10,000. It's these adrenaline rushes that keep us in this market, and also just the idea that we could all become filthy rich off of this digital asset. Just being honest. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all. Every single... Is he picking his nose? Kind of. Thank you all once again for watching. I messed up what I was saying. You guys know the drill. Thank you all once again, and I'll definitely be talking to you all soon. See you.